And I welcome the opportunity to speak on the debate here tonight, and I think it's appropriate that sufficient time has been given and that it is indeed that there is long periods of time as well been given to TDs in order to actually express their views. At the outset, Cahirlock, I want to indicate my own position, which is that I'm not in favour of repealing the 8th Amendment, and I believe that it is important that the right to life of the unborn is recognised in the Constitution being a primary guiding document, and right to life of the unborn, I believe, being a very important principle and something that should be contained in that. I also acknowledge that it's a very difficult issue, Cahirlock, and there are very many difficult cases. And I also want to acknowledge the work of the committee, which took so much time to look into this and to tease out in great detail the various considerations, and over many weeks to hold hearings here in the Dáil. And I think the members who took part on behalf of various parties from the Oireachtas here, and those that came in to speak at the hearings, as well as the staff who participated, acknowledge the work that they carried out. You don't have to agree with the outcomes, but I think we certainly do have to respect the fact that a lot of work and time went in on behalf of the Oireachtas, and it is now appropriate that it comes back to the floor of the Dáil here for everyone to consider those issues and indeed to decide on the way forward. And I also believe it's appropriate that ultimately the public will get their opportunity to have their say and decide on deciding what happens and what our laws should outline and should contain. I think it's also very welcome that the debate has so far been very respectful, and I would be hopeful that that will continue. And I think people can hold differing views in relation to it, but those views are genuinely held, and it's important that that is respected. In relation to my own attitude to life and to how a country should conduct its laws, and Cahirlock, I very much believe that it's important that we allow people to live their lives as they so choose, whether that be according to their own religion or to no religion, and that people should have the freedom to go about their life on a daily basis and live it to the full, and have the rights to do so, and as long as that doesn't impinge in relation to other people's rights. And I do believe, therefore, in relation to the issue of abortion, that there are two lives to be considered. In a pregnancy, that's the life of the mother as well as the life of the unborn. And I think when you look across the world, that the fact that there are two lives in a pregnancy is recognised in legislation of all countries, even those which have liberal termination regimes. There is no country that doesn't actually have laws which restricts terminations of pregnancy, and that's because there is a recognition that there's two lives involved. In many cases, some have more liberal regimes than the other, but in all cases, there is recognition that there's a second life there, two lives, and that the life of the unborn should be considered as well. In my view, that should be given the utmost consideration. And also, I mean, as we all know, it's crucial that the welfare and health of the mother is paramount. But alongside that, we should take every step appropriate and possible to ensure that the life of the unborn is also protected and considered. We saw last week in relation to the Supreme Court decision, and it clarified that the rights of the unborn is only really crystallised in our Constitution in relation to the 8th Amendment. Otherwise, they are not explicitly present in the Constitution. And I think that wouldn't be appropriate, and that indeed should be there, Cahirlock. There are undoubtedly difficult cases, but any accommodation of difficult cases
shouldn't lead to the withdrawal of the protection of the rights of the unborn from the Constitution. I think that should stay there. In relation to me, I know for many people their decision in relation to the upcoming referendum will be a difficult one. I think the approach that my party has taken in relation to allowing each individual member to vote according to their own conscience is appropriate and is the right way to do it, because it is something that is very personal to people. I know that people will be questioning themselves in relation to the referendum, and each person will have a very different, can take a very different but genuine view in relation to the way that they will vote in relation to this. But I do think the outcome is likely to be much closer than the polling would suggest. I think for many people it will come down to a choice between keeping the situation as it is, or voting with the view that it will end up as 12 weeks. Because I think if you look at the composition of the Dáil at the moment in relation to the parliamentary party the members of the Oireachtas that have indicated that they're in favour of 12 weeks, I think it's just short of 50%. And certainly if Sinn Féin just change their approach, which has been indicated by the leadership, I think it will be quite clear that the majority in the Oireachtas will be for 12 weeks. So I think the question, increasingly as it comes to the campaign, the way the public will be looking at it and considering it will be if it is repealed, it will be a matter of a regime coming in place where it will be 12 weeks on request. And in relation to emphasise, in relation to my approach, I believe it is very important that the protection of the unborn continues to be there in the Constitution. I think that is the appropriate place for it, and for that reason, I'm very much in favour of retaining the 8th Amendment, keeping it in the Constitution, and will be voting against repeal.